The Shadows of Ravenwood Manor. It was a cold, blustery October evening when Sarah Peterson drove into the small, forgotten town of Ravenwood. The town was shrouded in mist, its cobbled streets slick with rain. She had inherited an old manor from her great-uncle, a man she barely knew, and had decided to spend the weekend there, sorting through his belongings and deciding what to do with the property. The manor was an imposing structure, standing at the edge of a dense forest. Its once grand facade was now crumbling, ivy creeping up the stone walls, and the windows dark and foreboding. As Sarah pushed open the creaky front door, a chill ran down her spine. The air inside was musty, the faint smell of decay lingering in the hallways. She flicked on the lights, but only a few bulbs flickered to life, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The grand staircase loomed ahead, its banister thick with dust. Sarah sighed, setting her bags down and steeling herself for the task ahead. The first night passed uneventfully, though Sarah found it hard to sleep. The house creaked and groaned, the wind howling through the trees outside. She tossed and turned, the silence of the manor oppressive. The next morning, she set to work, sorting through the cluttered rooms. Old furniture, yellowed books, and faded photographs told the story of a once vibrant household. As she explored further, she found a locked door at the end of a long hallway on the second floor. Intrigued, she searched for a key, eventually finding it hidden in a drawer in her great-uncle's study. The door creaked open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Dust motes danced in the beam of her flashlight as she stepped inside. The walls were lined with shelves, filled with strange artifacts and old tomes. In the center of the room stood a large, ornately carved wooden chest. Sarah knelt down, running her fingers over the intricate designs before lifting the heavy lid. Inside, she found a collection of old journals, their pages yellowed with age. She picked one up, flipping through it. The entries were written in a spidery script, detailing strange occurrences and dark rituals. Sarah shivered, feeling a sudden sense of unease. She put the journal back, closing the chest and leaving the room. As the days passed, Sarah began to notice strange things happening in the house. Shadows seemed to move on their own, flickering at the edge of her vision. She heard whispers in the dark, voices that seemed to come from the walls themselves. At night, she dreamed of dark figures, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. One evening, as she sat in the study, reading through some of her great-uncle's papers, she heard a loud crash from upstairs. Heart pounding, she grabbed a flashlight and cautiously made her way up the stairs. The sound had come from the room with the chest. She pushed the door open, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The chest was open, its contents scattered acre floor. As she bent down to pick up the journals, she felt a cold breath on the back of her neck. She spun around, but there was no one there. Shaking, she gathered the journals and closed the chest, hurrying back downstairs. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house creak and groan. Around midnight, she heard footsteps outside her door. She sat up, heart racing, and listened. The footsteps stopped, and there was a soft knock on her door. "Who is it?" she called out, her voice trembling. There was no answer. She got out of bed, grabbing the flashlight from her nightstand, and slowly opened the door. The hallway was empty. She stepped out, looking around. As she turned to go back to her room, she saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was a tall, dark shape, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. Sarah froze, unable to move. The figure began to walk towards her, its footsteps echoing in the silent house. She backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. Just as the figure reached her, it disappeared, leaving her standing alone in the hallway. She ran back to her room, slamming the door behind her and locking it. She sat on the bed, shaking, and stayed there until morning. The next day, she decided she had had enough. She packed her bags, determined to leave the manor and never return. As she walked through the front door, she felt a strange sense of relief. The mist had lifted, and the sun was shining. She got into her car and drove away, not looking back. As she drove through the town, she noticed that the streets were empty. The houses were dark, their windows boarded up. She felt a sense of unease, but kept driving. As she reached the edge of town, she saw a figure standing by the side of the road. It was the same dark shape she had seen in the hallway. She sped up, her heart pounding. The figure watched her as she drove past, its glowing eyes following her. She didn't stop until she was miles away, the town of Ravenwood just a distant memory. Years later, Sarah still thinks about the manor. She wonders what secrets it held, what dark history it was hiding. She never went back, and the manor was eventually torn down. But sometimes, in the dead of night, she dreams of dark figures with glowing eyes, and wakes up with the feeling that something is watching her. And in those moments, she knows that the shadows of Ravenwood Manor will haunt her forever.